Item 10D, adopt a resolution authorizing the city manager to execute a construction contract for the state's local partnership program street rehabilitation and reconstruction project with O'Grady Paving, Inc. in the amount of $1,604,435, approving a construction contingency of $241,000, and appropriating $400,000 Measure A funds and $400,000 gas tax funds to the project.
Good evening, Honorable Mayor and members of the Council. The city's CIP program includes the annual street rehabilitation project to repair and apply preventative maintenance treatments to the city's roadway system. The city uses a pavement management software program to optimize the use of available funds by selecting street segments, the appropriate treatments, and timing based on street conditions, funding, and street deterioration characteristics. This year's street rehabilitation program was broken into two projects, a slurry seal project, which has been recently completed, and the proposed street rehabilitation and reconstruction project. The program was broken into these two projects to ensure compliance with funding restrictions and timing requirements associated with the use of state grant funds, which will be used for this project. The list of streets that are proposed for rehabilitation and reconstruction originally consisted of 10 street segments. These 10 street segments were developed using the pavement management software, feedback from our maintenance crew, and citizen complaints. The list of 10 streets was presented to Council last October and has been reviewed by the Infrastructure Subcommittee. The street segments are listed on Attachment 3 and depicted on a map on Attachment 4. The city advertised this project on June 14th and opened bids on July 1st. 3 bids were received ranging from $1.91 million to $3.25 million. The engineer's estimate was $1.94 million. The lowest bidder, O'Grady Paving Incorporated, meets the contractor qualifications and requirements specified in our contract documents and has satisfactorily completed many overlay and reconstruction projects for public agencies in the Bay Area. The contract documents specify that 8 of the 10 streets are bid alternates in order to allow flexibility in how we award this contract. Staff is recommending rehabilitation of all of these street segments with the exception of San Bruno Avenue between Glenview Drive and Crestmore Drive, due to conflicts with the ongoing Crestmore neighborhood reconstruction project and the future Glenview Tank Number 3 replacement project. If San Bruno Avenue is excluded, the contract price would drop from $1.91 million to $1.6 million. Staff recommends appropriating the city's typical annual allocation of $800,000 for road maintenance funds to this project and award a construction contract to O'Grady Paving in the amount of $1,604,435. Any unused funds will be carried over to the next fiscal year to help fund the next street rehabilitation project. This concludes my presentation, and I'm here to answer questions.
Thank you. And pronounce your first name for me.
My name is Yoon Jun Kim. I work with the Public Services Department.
Okay, thank you very much. I just wanted to hear that pronounced because I would have butchered it, believe me. Thank you. Okay, any questions? Irene?
I don't have any questions about this. I understand what you've written in your report, and it seems very logical to me. And I apologize, I should have asked before the meeting, so if you don't know the answer, that's fine. But I've been getting questions about when we are going to do Huntington and San Antonio, and when are we going to do San Bruno Avenue from El Camino to 101. So I know there's still construction down there. I know we're not finished with the grade separation and all those things, but do we have, in general, a timeline for those two? So, yeah.
Huntington and San Antonio, those were the first in our overall priority list, and they were deferred after the grade separation project is done.
Okay.
Based on our agreement with JPB, after the construction, they will overlay major section of Huntington, depending based on the pavement condition at that time. Depending of how much JPB will overlay, then is our intent to have those 3 streets the next priority in our paving project in the next 3 years.
Okay, so people just have to be patient. Okay, thank you very much.
Okay. Any other questions?
Through the chair.
Because-
Vice Mayor already took the first question because I've been getting those same questions as well. I know when we say the next 3 years, when you tell somebody that, that's kind of a, I know you may not be able to narrow that down any further, but it's kind of a hard pill for some to swallow to think 3 years from today. So I don't know if there's any way for us to narrow that down for a closer answer possibly. The other thing is that a few things. There is what I'd like to have explained, just so it's understood, is the contingency that we have, the $241,000 in addition to, there was another part of money for more management and other aspect, which was different from this. There's also, many people will ask, how do we come about these streets? What qualifies this street versus that street? Because in everybody's opinion, and I can understand it, there are many streets worse, and they're trying to understand what they see and what we see, and they don't think we're looking out of the same eyes. We're seeing the same thing. So for these streets that were chosen, if we can have a very quick understanding as to why they were chosen, and again on the contingency, please.
Well, these streets that were chosen for reconstruction all have a very low pavement condition index, between 0 and 65. We take in, throughout the year, we take in citizen complaints, and we also have feedback from our maintenance crew, and we develop this in conjunction with the software program for the Street Saver through the MTC, which is a requirement for any public agency to use to get grant funds in order to justify that you are using grant funds in an optimal manner and not wasting them. So we use these public feedback software program and our own visual inspections with ourselves and our crew, and we formulate the list and narrow it down with the infrastructure committee and also taking it into council.
So
The contingency is a standard 15% that we use on our construction contracts. Many times when we're doing pavement reconstruction or overlays, you can't determine exactly how much base has to be repaired until you fully dig out the street. We do estimates on what reconstruction is required based on spot sampling, doing corings on certain streets in certain locations, but you can't core all over the place. So that contingency will cover the unknowns when you actually open up the streets. And sometimes the limits of the streets, it makes sense to extend them or to retract them based upon the conditions as they are out there. By the time the inspections are done and the contract gets out, sometimes there's extra damage that was either done in between or has not been foreseen through the earlier inspections, and this contingency helps take care of that.
Jen?
So with that said, we would know, and I mean, your estimation is that if we approve this tonight, that this project would probably begin end of August and September. So I'm following along on this concern about contingencies because it's a large it's six figures. So you would know early on in the project, whether that contingency is necessary?
Not necessarily.
Or as you go from
you
street
go
to
along,
street,
and
yeah. I'm
the
sorry.
streets aren't perfectly straight, and as you're paving them and you're straightening out some of the undulations, more quantities of asphalt that you could not have calculated beforehand tend to go in there. So the the contingency is determined as you go along. It's very difficult to determine it beforehand.
So I guess the concern is that not knowing what the contractor actually bid on and what those limits were, that if they exceed those limits, then they ask for additional funds out of the contingency.
I will just follow up with a few comments. On all of our construction contracts, our proposal is a standard 15% contingency for unknown condition. You will not have, or even the department will not have a clear understanding of the needed contingency for that contract until the end of conclusion of that contract. No item is paid out of contingency F was included in the initial bid document. Only just item unknown and not included in the bid document can be paid out of the contingency. Historically, only just on a very, very few projects, the department came with the initial recommendation of 20 or higher than 50%, 15% contingency, when the unknown was very high, like very congested utility area, like the Kane project was the last project when our recommendation was even higher than 15%. But the typical always for all of our project is 15. Most of the time, the contingency is not used. And you can see that with our closeout report, what will come back to you. And you see clearly listed all of the change order. And on most of the project, the contingency is left unused.
I'm going to speak for my colleagues and say, can you really highlight that at the closeout of the project?
I certainly will.
And then the only thing I would ask is when we're bringing these forward, if we can have the rating of the street and the last time work was done on that street, just so we have it within the staff report and for the public's information. Because I know you were giving the number of a 0 to 65, understanding that people do read this and go online and they're trying to understand what's good, what makes a good number, what's not, what's the average number that we have here on these street, on these. The gentleman on the subcommittee with me just also mentioned pictures speak quite a bit, so as they say, so that would also be great for future reports as well for the public's information.
Mr. Rico?
Robert Rico, 7th Avenue. Could possibly you spend just a minute and also talk about the additional not to exceed, or they're about $10,000 for, I think it's $10,000, for the inspection that the city is going to have to supply to oversee? There was in the packet, there was an additional dollar amount, $10,000 or $100,000. I forgot what the exact number was for city inspection. Thank you.
This amount that's appropriated for the project is for staff's time and our inspector to go out there on a daily basis, and our engineers, project managers' time to administer the project, make sure that the contract is done per the specifications, make sure that the bid items are quantified, and basically just to administer the project. And
standard procedure that I don't remember that it was always mentioned in some of the prior bids.
correct, it is a standard procedure.
Typically,
Wait, let me just, while you're going to answer that, so are these city employees that are going out to check on the work and to make sure that everything is going well, because they're already paid, so I'm not that just, I need more clarity to understand. 'Cause I haven't always seen this that I recall.
All in each of our project proposed is included the inspection and project management during construction. Is typically is the typical 10%. That is the range what is included. That the inspection can be done by city employee, or in certain instances when the resources are not enough, then can be augmented by outside support for construction inspection, and also includes certain testing what needs to be done for paving projects. And I will just elaborate a little bit to Councilmember Medina's prior question that the PCI is included is on our website with the listing of each of streets. Everybody can check the PCI rating on their street. And also included in the next 5 years. The next 5 years proposed paving projects are listed on our website, and they have the PCI listed on that list also. And based on our research, the data is available only just beginning 97. Since 97, no work, based on our on the information available, no work was done on these 9 streets since 97.
Any other questions or action by the council?
I'll introduce the resolution.
Vice Mayor O'Connell.
Aye.
Councilmember Salazar.
Aye.
Councilmember Medina.
Aye.
Councilmember Ibera.
Aye.
Mayor Ruane.
Aye.